Okay, so what I want to show you is the uvHotSpot script that I wrote recently. What it's for is so you can go ahead and take a texture that's been open. Come on. If you got like a modular texture like this, it's got a bunch of regions that you normally have to spend manual time, moving your UVs over to have them match in each of these, little regions or whatever. What you can do is you get to go ahead and define these regions, and then have the script find it for you, do the work for you. So it's actually a really cool way to texture things these days. What you do is you go ahead and specify texture, place out the regions, then you save that out, and then you don't have to ever do that ever again. Then what you do is you just go ahead and select your polygons, and go ahead and just make sure that you got like a world space UVs on them. You just have to make sure that the UVs already exist, the UV sizes are correct, so that they're the correct, like pixel size ratio or whatever, and make sure that they're unrotated. And then you just run the script, and as you'll see, the script will find for every single UV island in here, whether it be 1 polygon, 2,000 polygons, doesn't matter. It will find a portion of the image that is close enough to what was there. So you can go ahead and take like railing or whatever, go ahead and do world space projection, which I just did. Then go ahead and you want to specify these or segregate them to different UV islands. Right now, all that is one UV island because it did a planar from the top. I don't want that to be a UV island. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and select those polygons, run a loop, go ahead and just move them in the UV window. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to unrotate them, which are, it's right here. If you go to unrotate, now that they're not angled anymore, then I'll just go ahead and run the hotspot find. And there you go. You just textured your rails like that. It's really easy. Now, let me show you one thing I wrote to this algorithm, in this script. There's actually 2 algorithms to determine which UV island to use. One is weighted more towards keeping the resolution correct, and one is weighted more towards keeping the aspect ratio correct. And so, if you look at these 2 pieces of geometry, one was run with each algorithm. So this one right here, you see how we're seeing low-res textures all over this entire thing? That's correct. That's actually the pixel aspect ratio of the original UVs, or the pixel size. So that's correct. But notice over here, see how this bottom polygon is super high-res? The reason why it chose that was because the aspect ratio of that UV island was the closest it could possibly get, while keeping the pixel resolutions as close as it could possibly get. Unfortunately, that meant that of all the ones to choose from, this was the best match. And so now it's much higher res than you could maybe have used. So this one, as you can tell, it had to be stretched in order to make it fit, but at least it's the same pixel ratio. So whichever is more important to you, you go ahead and define that when you're saving out your UV layouts. Generally what I do is I go ahead and I make it so that if you look at this image right here, if there's like a pretty much an even distribution of UV island sizes, like you're going to cover pretty much every single various spectrum, then you can go more for resolution. If you have random image sizes where you've got like only a couple of boxes, one's small, one's really large, and you're not covering the entire spectrum, then go for the other algorithm. And let's go ahead and show you how to do a layout save right now. So the first thing you do is just go ahead and go down here, and remember this is Super UVs Mini, and just go to New. And what it does is if you have an image selected, it will go ahead and use that. If you have no images selected, it'll load up a little file. New file browser, and you go ahead and pick one. We'll go ahead and do. Let's see here. Let me find an image. I'll be right back. All right, let's do this one. So I'll go ahead and click New, and what you'll get is a polygon that's created. I'll go to quad view. A polygon that's created, and what you do is you can either build the UV islands either one of 2 ways. You can actually either go ahead and cut up this plane and just keep cutting it up until it matches all you want, or you can go ahead and draw boxes to specify your UV islands. So when that's all done, what you do then is you have to make sure that your UVs are projected correctly, because it actually doesn't read the geometry, it reads the UV bounding boxes. So let's go back to the UV window. So first off, let's look at this polygon right here. Let's go ahead and select the rest of the touching UVs. Now you see how all this is one UV island? What I usually do is, and that's because they're all sharing vertices and touching UVs. So let's go ahead and do an unweld all. If you hit tab, that's what you'll see. Go ahead and do that, and now when you go ahead and select connected in the UV window, it won't get them. Then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and do a planar projection, and I'll tell it to do planar Z automatic, and I'll just click. And remember, it uses the bounding box of your geometry, so if you have any pieces out here, it's going to make it bigger than you want. So go ahead and delete that geometry if it's outside. And now, just go ahead and look at your UVs, make sure they're correct. See all those ones I dragged out? That's all matching what it was supposed to match. So then you just go ahead and do uvHotSpots save. And now what you want to do is one feature here is ask you how many pixels you want to shrink each UV island by. What that's for is if you've got basically every one of these UV islands can shrink by any amount you want. Like say you had a texture with some wasted space and you want to shrink by 10 pixels, or say it's very minute, but you do want to just get rid of that artifact you get with bump maps, where if you have like a flat surface right here and it has a bump that goes down, on the corner of your texture, and then the next tile goes right back up again, you're going to see that pixel blend on the border of your geometry. And so what I go ahead and do is I usually shrink by 1, if not more. So I'll click 1, and then it's going to ask you which algorithm, whether or not resolution is more important or aspect ratio. For this one, it's more aspect ratio because it's so random. I'll click B, and then it's going to ask you, and then you're done. It'll save it out. That's all you have to do. I'm not going to go ahead and save it out because I've already got this actually saved out. Let me show you this. Let's go ahead and close this scene. And new scene. Let me open that image again. Okay, so we'll say you've already created a UV layout and you want to edit it, which happens where you made a guess that you might like this part, but you actually find out you don't. What you do is you go ahead and just select the image, or you could just do you could have no image selected and just go edit pre-existing, and it'll either use the one that's selected or load an image. So I'll just go ahead and do that one. Go edit pre-existing. It's going to load up the shader, see what was actually defined, and as you can see, all these UV islands are specified now. So you can say, you know what, I changed my mind. This one actually needs to be a little bit smaller, or whatever. Or I want to delete that one, or whatever. You can do all that and then push save again. So it's for creating new, or editing pre-existing, and using all that. So there's one last thing I should cover, and that's references, how references work. So let's go ahead and open up the file. If you go to your directory, it's Rage for you or Doom for you, go to base, decals, go to art scripts, and you'll see this config file. Go ahead and open up, and now let's look at this. Let me go ahead and scale this window a bit. Okay, so usually the way it works is at the very bottom is where I save these layouts. So as you can tell, this is regime panels 2, and it's got all the UV islands specified or whatever. You shouldn't edit any of this stuff by hand, by the way, because I don't have any error checking from any of the text or anything like that. So what this is actually all your UV islands laid out for textures regime panels 2. Now what if you have a skin? Like for example, let's look at this right here. You see this image, panels 1, and this one right here, panels 1A, and this one right here, panels 1B or whatever. All these use the exact same UV layout. It's just that they have different skins, basically. So instead of having to define all these again, what I do is I use references. So let's scroll up. Let's look for panels 2. Okay, so as you can see right here, there's a skin for panels 2B. And what it tells to use is it tells it to use a reference of panels 2. And so if you want to go ahead and make a new UV layout, just go ahead and copy and paste one of these lines and just change the names. Don't add any spaces or tabs or anything like that, because again, my script is not checking for any errors or anything like that. So just keep it all laid out, exactly like this. And that's all I have to do is just go ahead and change, put in 1A and tell it to use 1. That's it.